What's up guys, today's video I am gonna do a detailed review and pick the top 5 best Sony camera 2022. After doing proper researches, we came to the conclusion that meets the best in terms of overall. Kindly leave a like if you find this helpful, and I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my channel and turn on post notifications if you haven't. We will be also providing affiliates link to purchase from Amazon. Kindly use to for best offers and purchase from anywhere in the world. We'll be back with more videos. Sony's a6400 is a compact 24MP mirrorless interchangeable lens camera with an apsc sensor that will serve plenty of photographers from family documentarians to pro shooters looking for a lightweight second body. The big news is that it has a new processor based on that used in Sony's sports shooting flagship A9, which enables real-time tracking autofocus, which is one of the most effective autofocus implementations we've yet seen. It's also among the easiest to use, once you've gotten it set up. One of the biggest handling updates for the A6400 is the touchscreen. To move your autofocus area on an A6000 or A6300, you had to hit a button to enable the 4-way controller, which doubles, rather fussily, as a rear control dial, and click around. The ability to simply tap on the screen or use it as a touchpad with your eye to the finder makes the A6400 feel far more responsive when you're out shooting, even if the touchscreen's responsiveness isn't all that great. And somewhat ironically, this ease of moving the AF point around comes at a time when real-time tracking largely obviates the need to do so in the first place. This new screen also tilts up by 180 degrees to allow for vlogging, and Sony has certainly been pushing that as a use case for the A6400. But couple the lack of in-body stabilization with the fact that any hot shoe mounted microphone will block almost all of the screen, and we can't help but feel that Sony missed the mark a bit on this one. But the new screen mechanism does allow it to tilt down almost 45 degrees further than before, which is useful. It's also worth mentioning that, while the specifications for the electronic viewfinder show it should be unequal to the likes of, say, Canon's EOS M50, we noticed its quality isn't quite there. In side-by-side shooting with the same subject, the A6400 will display noticeably greater amounts of moire than the Canon, lending the whole view a bit of a crunchy feel. That said, the viewfinder is still of good quality and of course makes it far easier to shoot in bright light rather than relying on the rear screen. And once you enter playback, they look identical in terms of detail. The single card slot sits next to a familiar NPFW50 battery pack. The Sony a7R IV is the company's 4th generation, high-resolution full-frame mirrorless camera and is built around a BSI CMOS sensor that outputs 60.2MP images. Relative to previous generations, it promises more robust build quality, refined controls, the company's latest autofocus implementation, and more. Despite its high resolution, it can shoot at up to 10 frames per second with full autofocus and shoot 4K video either from the full width of its sensor or from an APS-C/Super 35 crop. It also gains a 16-shot high-resolution mode that can be used to generate 240MP images of static scenes. The most visible difference is a much larger AF on button, with longer travel, which will please those photographers who prefer to back-button focus. The AF point joystick has also been made much more substantial, ironically, just as the AF system got so good that you rarely need to use it. The next difference you're likely to notice is the high-resolution viewfinder. The A7R IV is the 4th camera we've encountered to use the latest 5.76M OLED display and it looks good. There are 2 quality modes, standard and high. The display quality, high setting makes full use of the viewfinder resolution but uses more battery and may be unavailable at higher temperatures. There's also a fast and standard refresh mode. Using the faster refresh mode gives a more responsive preview, again at the cost of battery drain. This overrides the display quality setting. You can't have a fast and detailed display. The A7R IV uses the same FPZ100 battery as the Mark III. This helps the camera achieve a battery rating of 670 shots per charge using the rear screen and 530 shots using the viewfinder. The body of the A6600 will look very familiar if you've used any of the previous models in this series. However, there's one major difference: the camera grip is a lot bigger thanks to the larger battery. For the first time, Sony has used a battery from its full-frame mirrorless models in the A6600, which is said to offer 800 shots per charge. This is a huge step up from the previous 350 to 400 shots per charge that other A6XXX models have been rated for. The larger grip also means that this camera is more comfortable to hold for a prolonged period of time. The body is built from a magnesium alloy and is said to be dust and moisture resistant. The buttons are ergonomically laid out at the back, and most of them can be customized, including the labeled ones. The mode dial on the top offers the usual shooting modes, including the dedicated SAMC, slow and quick, mode, which we saw on the A6400. Sony has ditched the pop-up flash on this model, but you still get a hot shoe for external flashes. The ports on the left side of the A6600 now include a headphone jack, along with the usual microphone, micro USB, and micro HDMI ports. We're a little disappointed that Sony hasn't moved to the USB Type-C standard yet for this series. The rear 3-inch touchscreen has a 921K dot resolution and can be flipped upwards 180 degrees, making it easy to take selfies or frame a shot when vlogging. There's a 3-second timer that's automatically enabled for stills when the screen is flipped up. It can also be tilted downwards, giving you a fair bit of flexibility when you need to shoot at odd angles. You also get a 0.39-inch OLED electronic viewfinder with a 2.35 million dot resolution. The Sony ZV-1 is a 20MP compact camera geared towards vlogging. It has a new and novel directional microphone next to the flash hot shoe, and there's a fully articulating touchscreen display. The ZV-1 shoots in 4K up to 30p and Full HD up to 120p and features a 24 to 70mm equivalent f1.8 to 2.8 lens. Although the Sony ZV-1 is designed specifically with vloggers in mind, it's quite capable as a conventional compact stills camera too. If you're a hybrid shooter who is interested in capturing both video and stills, but doesn't want to carry around two cameras, the ZV-1 has a lot to offer. The ZV-1's ergonomics might seem a little quirky at first, but are fairly intuitive once you start shooting. There's a modest grip on the right-hand side and it's comfortable to use when shooting in selfie mode or a standard shooting position. When you are shooting with the camera held out at arm's length with the lens facing yourself, you can control the zoom rocker with your thumb and use your index finger to hit record or release the shutter. The ability to easily swap between shooting videos and stills is one of the greatest assets of the ZV-1, made easier if you are using the memory recall functions in the camera. These let you customize banks of settings that include your shooting mode, auto, PASM, video and so on, exposure settings, image or video quality settings, and quickly swap between them. The ZV-1's included fuzzy mic windscreen does an excellent job of cutting down on distracting wind noise when recording video, but unfortunately it also covers up the on/off button on the camera. On the back of the camera you'll find the camera's single control ring, which is the only way to adjust shutter speed and aperture while shooting. It's not that bad if you're using the ZV-1 to capture stills, but can be cumbersome for vloggers since the only adjustments that can be made using the touchscreen are for focus. So if you want to adjust anything other than your AF area, you'll have to flip the camera back around. The ZV-1 offers impressive image quality. While shooting, I tended to keep it set to ISO auto with a range of ISO 125/6400. The ZV-1 generally did a good job regardless of if I was shooting in P, A, S or M mode. The Sony a7 IV is a mid-range 35mm full-frame mirrorless camera that replaces the very popular 3-year-old Alpha A7 III model. The a7 IV has a brand new 33-megapixel XMIRROR back-illuminated full-frame sensor with an optical low-pass filter, the latest flagship class Bion's XR processor, and offers a dynamic range of 15+ stops at low sensitivity settings. 4K UHD video recording is available in the ZAVC-SI format at up to 60 fps at 4:2:2 color depth in 10-bit to the inserted memory card or over HDMI to compatible third-party recorders with either long GOP or all intraframe encoding. It can record full 1080 HD at up to 120 fps and supports the S-Cinetone, HLG, S-Log3 and S-Log2 profiles. The Alpha A7 IV boasts a dust and moisture-resistant magnesium alloy body with built-in image stabilization worth up to 5.5 shutter speed stops, an ISO range of 50 to 204,800, and a hybrid autofocus system with 759 on-sensor phase detect points supported by 425 contrast detect points that work down to 4 ev. The Sony a7 IV supports real-time tracking AF and also human, animal and bird-eye AF, all for both stills and movies, making it the first Sony camera to offer such comprehensive AF support for both shooting modes. Other key features include 10 fps burst shooting with full AF/A tracking, a 3.69 meters EVF with 0.78x magnification and a refresh rate of up to 120 fps, and a fully articulating 3-inch 1.03 million LCD screen with improved touchscreen functionality. The Alpha A7 IV offers the fastest 5 GHz Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 4.2 connectivity, In-camera USB streaming, dual UHS 2 SD cards and CF Express Type A memory card slots, 610-shot battery life and USB-C charging. The magnesium alloy-bodied Sony a7 IV is slightly bigger, thicker and ever so slightly heavier than the 3-year-old Mark III that it replaces, but it's still quite small and slender overall, measuring 131.3 mm by 96.4 mm by 79.8 mm and weighing 658 grams without a lens, battery and memory card fitted, a mere 8 grams more than the a7 III. The increase in depth and weight is largely down to a more generous hand grip that makes the Alpha 7 IV even more comfortable to hold than the a7 III, which was itself no slouch in that department. The size increase is also caused by inheriting a heat dissipation design, or internal heatsink, from the a7S III, plus improved internal sealing so it can be counted upon in adverse conditions. Overall, the Alpha a7 IV feels chunkier than its predecessor, but in a good rather than negative way, with the new hand grip in particular making it feel more purposeful and businesslike.